Okay. Is it going? Maybe I should stop demonstration. Okay. So today we have quite intimate audience, and actually I'm very glad that I know some of you, almost everyone already. That's nice. And for those who don't know, my name is Dmitry Vilensky. I'm host and moderator of this iteration of School of Mutation of Institute of Radical Imagination. For those of you who don't know, it's organization which exists already 2 years and compiled from people from different locations, mostly around Mediterranean. It's many people from Italy. I'm happy to see here Emanuele and Marco Bravale from Solidog, Venice. Many people from Spain, from Greece, from Croatia, and Turkey, Xenia with us. So hi, thanks for joining. And we are somehow a little bit external, like Xenia and me, we are from Russia, and Turkey is not part of European Union. But same time, there's a group of people which shared certain commitments, and actually, as you know, that the whole task of the institution is to develop and problematize was the idea of commons and kind of post-capitalist possibilities of developing of society and cultural work and art, of course. And in my iteration, I mostly concentrated on artistic work and agency of the artist and artistic production. So for me, this kind of issue, which also, as we already start our informal chat, that under the big threat and reconsideration, how we continue our business as usual, or not business, but our mission. So that's quite serious issue. And I don't know if most of you have joined very important panel which Emmanuel and Marca did last Friday on universal basic income, where they discussed with a few initiatives, because right now in Europe, you know that it's quite serious trend to implement and also discuss what kind of condition for introduction of this kind of, how to call it, economic support or economic measures. And actually in Russia was also, yes, Manuel, please paste, was also, there is a recording of this session, so you can always actually later, you can refer to it and watch it. So, and in Russia was also quite small group of cultural workers who also kind of, in our completely precarious situation when government did just nothing to save the cultural sector. So they also start to discuss why we also should not be part of that international movement. And as you might also know, and I made few reference materials, that actually the topic is quite old. So it was already discussed after Second World War, after New Deal, and from different perspectives. Actually, we should be actually careful that the universal basic income discussed not just among left, but also among conservative and new liberals. So it's so many approaches. Which we should be really careful about and actually study them carefully. But what I would like to suggest today, it's first of all, I hope you might read the announcement of this assembly, that I suggest a speculation that universal basic income can be considered as a form of a gift. And gift is a very heavy concept. also very ambivalent with different approaches. But what is important about gift, to just generalize, it's actually obvious radical alternative to capitalist mode of production, because the way how economy of the gift, and actually we often speak about gift economy, not about the gift, is also part of that very subtle, sometimes very brutal economic relation between not just individuals, but among collectives. So among group of people, like a tribe, like it was in archaic cultures, or among possibility, like I speculate that actually the basic income can be also considered as a kind of also a gift, and who provide us with the gift, society, or is it just a share in that common economy which we all create, common goods which we all create together? So that's open issue for me. That's why actually today with us Oxana Timofeeva, our old comrade from our collective Что делать, who actually wrote a whole book about George Bataille, and actually we did few seminars on the gift economy in Russia with her, and I hope she will share with us her vision. And at the end of my introduction, I also would like to say that actually we all kind of dream of emancipation from labor, from that hard, monotonous, bureaucratic way of making our living. This is really true, and we feel exhausted, collapsing, precarious beings who really lost. And universal basic income sounds like legitimate answer. Okay, so we get out of that realm of necessity and jump and make a qualitative leap into the realm of freedom. Sounds incredibly great, but at the same time, I would feel that there is a certain kind of a traps inside of that kind of utopian vision. And to make a true utopia, we should be really very sensitive and conscious about that possibilities. So, and all my questions, and especially I'm also speaking outside of so-called affluent society, which actually we have inside of Institute of Radical Imagination discussion. Actually, it kind of likely that a lot of affluent countries like Netherlands, Finland, partly Spain already start that experiment in different forms. And if you speak with economists, you can see that there is kind of minimal basic income or utopian basic income, and calculation in the article which I shared with you against basic income, that was actually quite heavy economic analysis what it is. And in our situation, I also see that if we consider that maybe some countries more advanced, so like with industrial revolution, so it might create certain global inequality where artists supported with possibilities of getting support. It's already there, because we know how Western artists operate with different economies and funds, and people who are outside, who have no access to that kind of support. So, and that for me also quite serious issue, how we would imagine a certain form of international institution which might redistribute a certain form of global or national support and transform into some kind of international solidarity. So I might stop here, and actually, Oksana, are you okay to jump and bring us to some hardcore issues? Yeah, thanks so much for joining us from Petersburg.
Hi, hello guys. I will start from probably from some theoretical, but no, I will better start from some personal observations. which are, I think, familiar to all creative people. I'm talking from my experience as a philosopher, as a writer, but I think that these anxieties and worries can be understood by a wider, broader community of artists and intelligent people, so to say, those who produce things for things that are designed to be liked and reflected and somehow recepted by others. What I like to do is writing texts. Sometimes I write a short essays, sometimes I write a longer articles, sometimes I even write books, but quite rare. Actually, writing books is the best experience ever, but it's a little bit difficult. It takes time, and one really has to concentrate and to abandon all other activities and obligations and so on. But as far as I am a part of not only academia, but also cultural sector, I don't have this time just to be for my own, to sit there for like 3 months and write a book. Because I have to take, because in between I have to do like, I have to meet dozens of other deadlines for smaller things. I have to write academic reports and I have to supervise students and I have to do this and that and that and that. What happens then is that I start doing things, but then I abandon and then I move to a new project and then again I have to abandon this for the sake of that. And my choices in this process. So I cannot do everything. I have to choose. And in doing my choices, I motivate myself. I have to find like a proper criterion for rejecting this work and accepting this one. And I find that in search of this criteria, I am rather stay for the obligations that are connected to the place where I receive my salary, because I cannot cancel any of these. And this is usually a lot of bureaucratic issues also. Then I choose for the things that that bring me some additional income, money. So I say, okay, 1,000 euro. Probably I will take some. I have to do this, and then of course, how interesting is this, etc., etc. But money really plays a certain role in my work-life choices. This sounds kind of normal and everyone knows that, but in fact, this is not only like individual psychological problem, but it's like a really serious problem, ontological problem, I would say, existential, anthropological, and ecological problem as well, and political, economical issue. So this was a kind of personal introduction. Basically, as I think many of us, I do suffer within this situation, because I think that I must I have to do something a little bit slightly different. I feel urge in doing something that I find really important content-wise. But I postpone this for the sake of the matters that are imposed by political economical system within which I exist. Because I'm waged, just simply because of the situation of waged labor. One could imagine an ideal world where every gifted person, I say gifted, when I say gifted, I mean every person is gifted. But in Russia, we also say gifted when people is doing something like art, you know, poems, writing poems, something that, that is defined as creative labor. In his economical philosophical manuscripts and other works, Marx Marx brought a very important idea that that labor actually is the essence of the human. Labor is the essence of every human being. But which kind of labor? Precisely this one, creative labor. And in its essence, every labor is creative if it goes as the essence, as the essential activity of a human being. There is something problematic with this statement, and Marx was really criticized for that. But there is also something deeply that must be reconsidered and accepted. What is alienated labor? So essentially, labor is an essentially free activity of human being. Not only human, this I would add to Marx that every living being is working. Like the bee, a bee is working, and a bird is, and a worm, every kind of creature participates in the process of universal production. And this process is their essentially free activities. Alienated labor is precisely the situation when we take this freedom, this essential freedom of our creative activity, and bring it to the market and sell it to the to someone, to institution or to other person. It's not our labor, it's not our time that we sell, but we sell our precisely this essence, the essence of ourselves. So the gift we have, or the gift we present. That's hell. That's terrible. And that's the core of capitalist being, which has really catastrophic consequences for the development of the humankind. The only way to stop, to prevent these consequences are the implementing of a certain elements of gift economy within capitalist system, if we want to save capitalist system. Otherwise, capitalist system collapses together with the people, because people are too, like everyone is too exhausted. The pandemic crisis demonstrates the fact that without the necessary supplement of personal meetings and you know, this festive elements of social being, work loses its interest. There are many of, I think many of people are getting really depressed. what are these elements of gift economy? And here I come to Bataille, and I will tell you about my reception of his book Accursed Share, where not even the entire book, but its introduction, where Bataille defines differentiates between the two types of economy. The first one is what he called general economy. No, the first one is restricted economy. Restricted, what is restricted economy? It's a human's activity on Earth, like capitalist systems, for example. Restricted economy is the economy that is that aims towards economic growth and prosperity, accumulation, production, etc. Whereas it is a human economy, and it's an economy of separate individuals, separate national states, and so on. The general economy is what he also calls the solar economy. Its model is the sun. What does the sun do? The sun shines. This shine gives us everything we have. Life, all life on Earth depends on the activity of the solar rays. It produces all energy on the planet. So every movement is due to the sun. Every breath, whatever, whatever life is due to the sun, to warmth and light it produces, and gives it without ever receiving anything back. That's the model of the general economy. So basically, Bataille's motto is be like the sun, be solar. And he calls it general economy, but actually it could be also called like ecology with some reservations, because what he means basically is an ecological whole. He calls it economy on the planetary scale, on the global scale. So we take, we focus not on the individual and its growth, but on the whole and its necessity, so to say, to spend energy to what he calls a non-productive expenditure. So in nature, this non-productive expenditure is ethically indifferent. So you can see volcano explosion or different catastrophes, hurricanes, the storm, and other things. But also sunshine, which can be super productive, can be also super destructive. Sun can burn you down, and that's a natural general economy. Human economies, when they are trying to be, and death, by the way, is also a natural way to natural kind of exuberance of life. There are so many individuals, so for nature is just a kind of like feast when we are dying in numbers because we have this virus. It's like a sacrifice. It's like something, like a firework of the sun or things like that. But this doesn't mean that being generous in a way of a general economy, in the sense of making a general economy, humans must be as crazy and destructive as volcano, for example. No, this would be a wrong understanding. And the Bataille says that history knows some ways of some attempts to create a gift economy. The most known of them is potlatch, the tradition of this gift exchange, which was also super destructive for the participants of this process, rituals, and the sacrifice, also human sacrifice, are the unconscious elements of a solar economy within human cultures, historically known. But according to Bataille, even if those attempts were quite crazy and they are not actually that great, they are terrible, this doesn't mean that we should abandon the very idea that a solar economy in a human way is possible. We must, he says, be self-conscious. The time for self-consciousness is not came yet. We were still like not self-conscious, not self-conscious enough. Self-conscious in economy means that we must think of new ways of creating human models of the general economy. For example, he says, when we see that India is too poor and America is too rich, the general economy would just simply define America to give all its excessive goods to India without any reciprocation. This is a very famous statement, and of course it's hard to imagine how this is ever possible, because we are trapped in the restricted economies and the idea of national interests and so on and so forth. Solar means that. What would be? Okay. Then next case is coronavirus, the pandemic crisis. When economies, when the pandemic started, economies showed their tendencies to collapse. And national governments started to compete in inventing different measures how to save their national economies. It's remarkable that the most of implemented measures were exclusively restrictive or even super restrictive. So the pandemic crisis, from the point of view of the general economy, must be considered as a solar debauchery. It's an act of a general economy from the side of nature. What are the human responses? Human responses are creating the restrictive, more and more restrictive measures, creating borders, building walls, and isolation, disinfection, sterilization, etc., etc. So these are also kind of borders and walls, restrictions. But it was the first reaction. But the second reaction, I remember I was surprised when Trump says that people will be just giving money. The state will just give money to the people. And some other states started to also implement like small gifts to the people, because the governments came to realize, even Russian government came to realize that some local, maybe minor elements of gift economy can actually save restrictive economies. That capitalism that capitalist economy cannot save itself by its own means. It must borrow some communist or like general, it's not the same, but still here they are quite close to each other, borrow some proto-communist elements in order to save capitalist economies, its economies. And they started to, some of them more, some of them less, but they started to support individuals or groups. This is like a particular example, but in general, speaking in general, I think that that implementing of a basic income within capitalist system is basically such an element. It can save capitalist economy from some. It can prevent some risks that are brought by over-exploitation of people. Because the burnout is not an individual trouble of someone, of some certain defected individuals. No, it's a general disease. Everyone has a burnout. If not, there are people who are taking care of not being burned out, but they are constantly thinking how to prevent this, because they are in a situation when the burnout is not within a human being, but it's in the air. And the basic income is a way to give people some air to breathe, basically. That's what I think. I think it's very simple, but and yes, on this I agree with Dmitry that this is a gift. Yeah, there are many kinds of gifts. This is this kind of gift which is comparable to like the injection of a certain vaccine. Vaccine? Is it? Do I call it correctly? Like we have this virus.
Yeah.
In order to stop the virus, we have a communist virus, let's say, in our blood, and in order to stop that, in the body of society, the capitalist system injects makes some injection of micro elements of this virus within the body of society. So we don't have it in our, I mean, no, better said. It's just an idea that just came to my mind. So there is this virus somewhere in the air, and in order to so capitalism thinks that this is an injection. This gives society a certain kind of immunity from communist revolution, because otherwise people are just getting crazy and well, but but from our side, I think that whatever measures can be taken to make people stop a little bit and think and do what they really want is something absolutely necessary. I consider, I think that gift, I think that basic income must be a universal measure, not only designed for one particular group, for example, cultural workers or something, but if a person doesn't want to work, it's a free choice that must be respected, and in a Marxist perspective, the amount of goods that the person can receive, can get access to, doesn't depend on the workforce he or she is given to the society or whatever. No, just every person independent of their contribution must receive what they need. Animals as well. It's just a matter of changing the very structure of our minds, of our collective mind, general mind. When I think about the sun, well, when we, humanity, think about the sun in a practical, restricted way, we first of all consider sun as the source of energy. We think about building
Solar panel.
a solar panel, right? Solar panel, or we think about future projects of colonizing the sun. There are some. This will be the most, like for capitalists, the most logical way to save the energetic crisis in the future. Colonizing the sun. There is this interesting image of the Dyson swarm, for example, like if humans will come to creating colonies around the sun, but there will be no light. We will get it all. Yeah, right. So the way of thinking about the sun is that how much can we take from it? Can we get inside and take the energy from within without any mediation of other without the necessity of spending too much resources, like, I don't know, the technological resources. But this being solar means not having the sun in your pocket, but thinking in a different way. What can I give to the sun? What can I give to you? What can I give to my beloved friend, comrade, and to the society, and to nature? And just something like this. Yeah, I think here I can stop and we can discuss.
Yeah, maybe share. Yeah, actually, thank you so much. I'm surprised because we didn't spoke much that you agree with my kind of speculation. But you know, I just today, it was mails with inauguration of a new issue of Moose magazine, which actually come with one very provocative article. Maybe I can actually share with you just to show it. Did you see the screen? Yeah? Hello?
Yes.
Oxana, yeah, you see it. The musical chair that is capitalism. It just came today, and first essay, it's about distribution of this notorious 5K, 5,000 money to help any German citizens and residents who actually are registered as freelance. It was super easy procedure where many people, many friends of mine really received that kind of helicopter money, how otherwise people call it, like in US. But in this article, it's a very deep analysis who actually made this gift. And they discovered that it was done by Investition Bank in Germany, who actually stand behind the most brutal development landlord speculation, actually canalizing a lot of money into the pocket of the people who completely gentrified Berlin, and the same bank provide a gift to creative workers and freelancers. So I guess it was also quite interesting example how we should be really careful. And actually the article is super, how to say, funny. It's incredible type of writing, very much kind of Hitler style, very speculative also. But at the same time, it really shows that exaltation, how everyone was kind of staying in this digital line and kind of having the fun, you know, making spendings, you know, because for many people it was really crucial to receive it because otherwise they will not survive. So at the same time, I think that actually we might more or less get used to operate in that commodity-driven world to sell our labor force. But at the same time, as I noticed with my communication with younger generation and not so young generation, actually it's very hard to transmit and to actually share the idea what does it mean to be inside gift economy and all that complexities, as you also precisely mentioned that gift economy is not just a gift economy in archaic societies. We have it inside that very brutal capitalist alienated world. And so that capacities to give away, that's for me, it's really something which we, I don't know if it's possible to learn, but to create that kind of generosity. And at the same time, you'll see how it's vulnerable and also can be abused in a very simple way. But at the same time, I remember from 90s where you are too young to remember, but actually all speculation of Baudrillard, maybe you remember between difference between sign and symbol. And actually Baudrillard already in 90s told that actually economy of the sign, it's what he explained about commodified economy. And symbolic economy for him, it was also after the mouse, after Bataille was actually implementation of that kind of idea of the gift and how our society is not able to sustain or even operate inside. And this kind of uh, mixture is become very dangerous and sometimes very, how to say, very destructive, not just for economy, but for the people who are involved. And maybe we can open the floor because maybe some of you would like to comment because I'm sure that topic sounds pretty weird, but at the same time, I think for me personally, it's very important maybe to try to a little bit detour that kind of classical way of neo-Marxist thinking that everything has to be transformed into certain form of remunerated labor. So there is something which, as you said here, some kind of labor is the essence of human being, but what kind of labor? That's kind of free, playful, creative behavior in the world, in relation to the world, giving back to the world. And this for me, especially in art world, because actually even my first question, which I was trying to formulate, if we receiving basic income, would be our then work, could be also kind of a gift which we return to society. Or it can be kind of dystopian scenario when we receiving basic income with kind of preconditions that we stop creative work. So we don't participate, we need less and less, capitalist society need less and less people in that kind of market because it will be robots who start to paint or kind of absolutely new type of bureaucratization because I'm sorry, speaking too long. Actually, we have a chat with David Graeber, who is actually a big anthropologist, and also the guy. I also send you links to his statement about basic income, because for many people on the left, like left accelerationist, for them, basic income, the main kind of advantage of it is getting rid of bureaucracy. So basic income, it's unconditional. So everyone get it. You don't need bureaucracy to decide if you deserve to receive this compensation or not. It's not welfare state. It's not even, you know, socialist kind of welfare, which we used to know from Soviet time. It's completely kind of new type of very important redistribution of commons. So, but then we should really insist that what is redistributed not belong to the state. It's not a property of the capital. It's actually, we claim what belongs to us. And then we might be, how to say, detour this kind of possibility of that kind of poison and destructive aspect of the gift and transform it into something else. So I stop here. I have many things to say. I know, what do you think, Emmanuel? Because your approach is very much into that. We chat a little bit about that. You're overlapping with your statement with accelerationist, with David Graeber, and all that stuff. What do you think about gift?
This is a YouTube of
thank you.
A room with also David Graeber, and also I participated about basic income. If you.
Oh, cool! Thank you so much.
But anyway, in my opinion, as we said for long, I am really framing this transition and what is happening, substituting the labor market, because I think that the labor market as a unique mean in order to redistribute power of buying is in crisis. I mean, we are in a paradigm shift concerning this. And of course, on the other side, I think, as also we said with Andrea Fumagalli, the last meeting in this School of Mutation, capital is extracting value directly on life and resources. And so this means that also what, for example, all the feminist perspective about reproduction instead of production, no? This is the new oil. Sometimes we say that are the new oil, but also care and this common labor or activity that Oxana was saying is the new oil, and is not so much framed in waged market, in workforce as we were thinking under production line and so on. So what does it mean? That capital has the need to frame this living force, okay, in a new way that is no more the traditional waged labor. And so I am thinking to this problem with these terms, that we are understanding how digital platforms, social control, privatization of biotech and health system, okay, how capital is framing the rivers, the waves, the schemes in order to extract value directly from life. And this is no more probably under the frame of market labor or waged labor, okay? So this is our problem, to understand how is happening this turning. And of course, the Berlin 5K example is an example of this transition. And so there is like a right-wing strategy or neoliberal strategies in order to promote an income and not related to wage, because they need to feed this bioextraction, and they know that they cannot do through wages anymore so much. And so when neoliberal strategies are feeding and injecting income as a basic income or whatever, usually they also are privatizing everything else. So, for example, the problem of this scenario is that I give you, through bureaucracy or charity, a minimal income, and then you have to pay everything. Health, education, and whatever. And so, and this is the strategy that we are seeing also in Italy. Now, under this crisis, we have even more welfare cuts, for example, in educational system, but we have like fragmented support for unemployment in order to survive, no? So, and this is a strategy that we have to fight. Another strategy that I think is even more important is what especially is happening in China. For example, with this social credit system. So, the bureaucracy and the state, through digital means and tools and digital surveillance, can rank the access to whatever, service, travel, loans, whatever, ranking your goodness or your how much you are a good citizen. And so they can, through automation and data mining and camera control of the public space, whatever you do, and all the transaction in WeChat and Alibaba or Alibaba Pay and whatever, and they can understand and rank how much you can access to services, citizenship, and whatever. This is not money. No, this is not liquidity, but it's a ranking system like tokens or bonus that you can gain or you can not have in order to have access to the services. So I think this concept of gifts is specifically a strong mean against these two strategies. So how to have, so this strategy to have a massive mass control through digital tools in order to rank, in order to evaluate you as a citizen. And so in which money are not so central, but the value of what you are is based on a ranking system centralized in a social control by the state. This is China. And on the other side, that you are fed by an income and a liquidity only in order to have access to services privatized by the market. These are the two main dystopian, but not so dystopian. But it's the paradigm turn that I think we are facing. And so reframe a UBI that is not for this is our goal and our task. So gift economy, yeah, gift economy theoretically for me is linked to the concept of value. So in both in the market and in the social control top down, everything is based on a system of evaluation, of measurement. So you have to be measured. No? And the gift is a concept that the state, especially apart from Bataille, but also with Klossowski and also Derrida a lot, that gift states that the other is not measurable. That is not measurable. That only the other can state its value. No, nobody else can rank you, can evaluate you, but only you can say if this is a gift. Only you can say that this is a gift. Only the other, you, I mean, you if is the one that received the gift, no? And this is, for example, also something that we experimented in the basic income pilot we did in the Macau community. Because basically, just to explain, we established as an organization and our community to create a common wallet fed by our income as organization. And then we decided to share this common wallet monthly within the artist community as a basic income. But in the very beginning, we started to do schemes in order to understand who could receive this basic income. So, for example, the only one that was participants, the only one that was active in the time bank, only the one that was able to demonstrate to do something, no? And I think we understood that it was a super dangerous bureaucracy mistake. And after 1 or 2 years, we decided to base the basic income on a self-evaluation. So it was the freedom of everyone to state if they were allowed or they wish to take this money or not. And actually, the only gesture that everyone that are participant in this common pot, when they receive the basic income, are invited to do is to describe in totally freedom why they are belonging to this community. So someone has the freedom to say, because I simply need it, and I am doing nothing because I need also for the community to do nothing, or because I clean the floor for fucking 20 days and the community was not running without me. But anyway, we are like experimenting this freedom to self-define the value you have. Well, that's all. I spoke too much.
Thank you. I really appreciate that you also think that the gift can be really challenged. And actually what came into my mind that actually we might actually express that actually basic income can come under the pressure of the gift of all that uncalculatable labor, which we as society already contribute. And actually, if it comes not as a kind of dole, you know, I found very interesting English word dole, actually very close to Russian word doля, which means a lot, but at the same time, it means also pitiful, miserable amount of support, which actually sovereign provide you that you not die, you know? And actually, but that could be really, that's why my actually point is that we should really, through the idea and returning and reconsidering concept of gift, we could radicalize that basic income movement. Because right now, I'm very often, for me, it's lacking some kind of real radicality. And especially when it's also misused from neoliberals and different type of economists, I see that we should do something more, you know? And that could be really a point which we should insist. So that's my very modest kind of contribution. I'm not sure if I'm right, but at the same time, this is what I'm thinking right now.
Yeah, just to add a last point. I was thinking about the avant-garde theater piece, Victory Under the Sun, when Oxana was speaking. So from the ecological, political ecology perspective, I think that also in nature we can watch or listen about a sort of exchange, but for example, in the rivers, in the wood, the ground take the water that he needs and then leave the other water stream, no? So in the ecosystem also that we have to build up is very related to what is really useful, no, for us and for each of us and as an actor in the ecosystem, so that we don't have we need something, but every time that we need, we have also to release something, no?
Yes.
And so that's why I think we cannot win over the sun. And this is also the central point for a post-Anthropocene perspective.
Thank you,
So
Manuel.
how much we have?
Maybe someone else would like to comment or say something.
I can add.
Yeah, please.
I can add a little bit to your reflections about these little pitiful dolls distributed by the sovereign to these little people. From a feminist perspective, Russia is a patriarchal, super patriarchal society, and they have a friend, for example, who is constantly sharing with me some things that are going on in like normal society with its traditional gender distribution. So she says, Oxana, a man, they must give. They are by nature, they are the givers. They must feel themselves generous. And I myself, I translated, it's not my speech. I myself, I want to go to a special seminar, not a webinar or seminar, coaching, where they teach girls, women, how to ask a gift from a man. So if you learn properly to ask a gift, then you will get probably a husband, and he will stay with you forever, and he will be supporting a family with money and presents and so on and so on. So basically, and I asked her, and yes, and how then to ask for a gift? What does this mean? And she says, you have to pretend that that you are a little bit slaverish, and that you are super happy to receive any kind of gift, and then he's a master. So basically, what she means to say that these relationship are inscribed into traditional Hegel's master and slave dialectics. It's just when she wants to say this, but she doesn't know how to put it into proper terms. Yeah, I think people have to be. We have to help people to formulate what they really want to say. Okay, so this scheme, yeah, and this is a traditional scheme, and how, but I showed you, Dima is right. This scheme is also a matrix scheme for a traditional gift exchange and for a potlatch as well. Because if I give you, I am so generous, I'm a master. You are a slave. And the more I give, the more I'm a master, the more slaves I have. If I'm an emperor, I can give a little piece of pizza to every simple person who came to the square, and they will be super happy. Everyone loves me because they are all mine after all. Right. This is, of course, the logic of a traditional sovereignty, and we see that this is a feudal sovereignty. So we are not completely done with that because there are threads of a feudal sovereignty within capitalist society, and the big corporations they inherited these functions from like a big emperors or the rich men from the past. What is problematic with that? Yeah, we can give. What is problematic with the giving my presents, asking for gifts from a man or from a sovereign or from an oligarch or whatever? But the problem is that this is humiliation. This humiliates a person. And this is, I think, a good emotional criteria to differentiate between a good gift and a bad one. So a gift in this communist sense, the communist sense, when I say that, I have in my mind an image of Platonov's republic, so to say. In Andrei Platonov's Chevengur, people are trying to build communism, and well, it's fucked up, of course, from the very beginning. But what they try to do, they do not work there. The only problem, and I think the only mistake that they do, they only have one. So it's like a socialist village, Chevengur, where no one works. They say, we were working for centuries, for ages. We are tired of the capitalist shit. We abandoned work. And now we have the only proletarian. It's a sun. So the sun works for everyone, and it provides grass, food, energy. Electricity is also made from the sun. Platonov was obsessed with the idea of solar. There were no solar panels, but the idea that electricity can be taken directly from the sun. Yeah, so, but what do people do? What is the kind of economy between them? They actually do something. They do not work, but they constantly invent different crazy things, like crazy machines, I don't know, whatever. And they do it because they do not just stay without, like, they do not do nothing. They, yeah, always busy with something crazy. And they do it for their fellow villagers. For example, I do some, I don't know, some electric, a little electric robot for Dima, in order to, I don't know, the special robot will go to the sky and bring stars to Dima in order to make him sleep well. Something like this. And I'm super busy with that, and then I come to Dima and say him, oh, take this. And then Nikolai is doing this for me. So this is a mutual gift. What is the sense of it? It's not a mastery. It's like it comes as a dignity. I don't know. You know, the dignity of a person. It's an opposite to the humiliation that is provided by the sovereign. So basically, the idea of a gift in this Batayan future or self-conscious sense, as a self-conscious activity, is a gift without a sovereign, is a gift without a master, or is a gift outside of master and slave dialectic. And what can be outside of master and slave dialectic? Master and slave is not a binary opposition. It is a triangle. There is a third term there, which is freedom. Freedom is on the side of dignity, and it's beyond mastery and slavery. It goes beyond mastery and slavery collapse or deadlock. Here I stop.
Yeah, but also in this text that I mentioned before by Klosowski, this living currency. Also, in his opinion, but it is on the trajectory also of Foucault and so on, and is a lot also about sexuality. Basically, if as I understood, he said that what we pay a ghost. Usually, we pay a ghost. And why we pay a ghost? Because we don't know who we are, basically, no? So we have, we want to pay, or we evaluate the representation of what we want to be in a way. And capitalism is simply commodifying this cost. Basically, and we can see.
Excuse me. You mean guest or ghost?
Ghost, phantom.
Ah, phantom, ghost.
Phantom,
okay.
Ghost. Not guest. Ghost. So we want to pay. We want to pay a ghost. That is what we don't are yet, no, and it is because we don't know who we are, and this is the matrix of desire, and capitalism is basically commodifying this phantom, and we can even, for example, watch how much this is functioning, not only with goods, but with the attention economy we have right now in the social networks. that we are continuously feeding no, what we pretend to be. And we spend a lot of time and a lot of energy, no, in order to pretend to be something, because we simply are paying, are giving value to a phantom. So with this concept of living currency is, like Oxana was saying before, the issue is how to kill this ghost, this phantom, how to create an exchange of bodies, of simply what we need, no? But why Bataille, in my opinion, say that is a matter of consciousness? Because through this gift, the issue is that we can understand each other's. We are curious to understand each other's, and we are not feeding a phantom or what we don't are, no? So is this curiosity to being in a process of communing that is of the real value, not a supposed phantom that we will never be in the end, no?
Yes, yeah. We made a whole semester about ghost and hauntology. It was super interesting remark. Actually, I didn't know this text, Life and Currency. Nikolai wanted to say something.
Yeah, just a little remark. Thank you so much. And just a few steps back, because I caught some idea that I'm still working on, and it connects a little bit what Emanuele was saying, what was based on the praxis of Macau and this like participation-based possibility of the participants of Macau to get this basic income, or to be sort of paid somehow. Oh, and instead of unconditional one, then the next step became the self-evaluation, which means the person has to prove of their own use value on their own. And out of that, this came to my mind, this like fantastic English word that nobody uses, and I've heard it somehow like randomly, and it's usufruct. It is called usufruct, which means the person has the right to enjoy something that doesn't belong to the person, that don't belong to the person. So you have your unconditional right to belong, to really enjoy that someone developed, which breaks apart the idea, the concept of private property in a way. And it brings back this idea of genuine generosity, like which really what can change the society completely is this genuine mutual generosity from people to other people, and from non-human to other non-human, and people in cosmos, and so on. So like I really like this idea that really turns it a little bit like in a different way, the right to use the values that someone produced, not for you explicitly,
Commons,
but
yeah,
you can enjoy it. Yeah, that what means like commons basically, but like that really, that slight linguistic shift brings the poetry. So I wanted to just add this.
Thank you, Nikolai. So, some more comments, questions. Larine, you'd like?
I'm just gonna try, because my connection was really bad before, so I stopped my video. I'm hoping that it will work now. But 100% what you just said, and I think it's really interesting in the sense of linguistically what you said as well. How like this, yeah, genuine, I don't know, being generosity in the sense of also being happy for another person or enjoying that. I feel it's quite interesting how that somehow, I feel at least, can be embedded in a language itself. So in Dutch, you have a word which is called gunnen, which is basically means being happy for someone else, or thinking that somebody deserves what they got or what they did, what they received. And I always struggle, for example, when I talk in English or and I try to describe the, I don't know, the full feeling of or weight of that word, because in English I feel like there is no such word, and you have that with different languages as well. Or I can't think of the word, but I feel like in Spanish you have a similar word as well as gunnen, but like it's always, I don't know, it's interesting how these nuances.
Provecho, it means like if you mean provecho, provecho means profit from this.
Yeah.
They
Of
say
really being, I guess,
Buon appetito, they say provecho, profit.
Yeah. But I think it's indeed like that, genuine generosity in common sharing, common, I don't know, not like really working and living through the commons, I guess, and not being constantly forced within this system of thinking that we're all responsible for our own success, whatever that may mean, and then the terms of success are already figured out for us. We like the question of what is actually valuable or what is actually what we need in society, or what we enjoy, what we would love for other beings somehow, what we would gun other people. I don't know, that I think that is such an important question to ask, and I feel is asked way too little in general. I don't know, I just want to make that remark. I really fully agree with what you said, but yeah.
Something else, because for me it's also, let's think how we translate that issue, general issue, into artistic work. So for me that also, because in some kind of old convention, artistic creation was always considered as a gift to society. So it was not something which should be immediately remunerated, or actually the value, it becomes kind of, again, not inside of commodity. It can be, of course, like in capitalist world, everything translated or into commodity, but at the same time, it was always kind of considered something uncalculatable, like a pure value which benefit everyone. And so-called whatever you call success or good work, so that contribution to the general kind of realm of culture was always considered as a kind of a gift. That's why for me, I feel always certain unease when we insist, absolutely legitimate, that we should be paid, we should be remunerated, we should be really sustain our living through our contribution, but at the same time, this aspect of that giving unconditional to society, to that commons, that's for me what we kind of lack in a certain kind of current neo-Marxist and that kind of post-Fordist speculation, when we actually insist on definite kind of calculation, remuneration, and so on. And for me, it's a kind of a trap. I wouldn't say that we don't need to do it. It's necessity, you know, to demand. But at the same time, I think that the idea of giving would really certainly radicalize even that kind of economic negotiation, from my point of view. And actually what Oxana said, very important, that actually this would really help us to get out of that position between master and slave. So I guess that actually might help us to really establish new form of relation, and through that challenge, maybe transform the system. And right now the system even more impose their own kind of rules of the game. Okay, maybe we'll pay a little bit few, but at the same time, the system behaved like a sovereign to actually dictate us certain kind of things. And at the same time, to radically transform it, we need certain kind of being like a son. Sorry, just quoting Oxana.
But isn't this also that kind of? I feel like the sharing or the exchange for the sake of sharing, that within our system, kind of that whole maybe internal motivation of making something or wanting to share a certain thought through a project, through bringing people together to exchange thoughts, that this system is somehow making it difficult, or like, if not impossible, like pushing us to take away that internal motivation, or not even just that, but also generally making it difficult because there's, I don't know, maybe very little space, breathing space created to do so. And it's very much undervalued. And you see that also within the different roles or jobs we have in society, or that most people that do such projects nowadays or try to still establish more, I don't know, more genuine forms of exchange, I guess, are, yeah, I don't know, being often like looked upon or being, yeah, undervalued in the sense of even if you, I don't know, even if you look at funding or pay rate of people that actually work in healthcare or in education, or that might want to kind of like from the core simply help another human being, or yeah, exchange skills, or I don't know, it's being made very difficult. And all these like empty jobs, I would say, it's in their what's the word, like for them, it's kind of convenient to keep it that way, to keep the private, like corporate world in a position of power somehow, and create as little like space as possible for these forms of initiatives or exchange. I don't know if that I think like there maybe, yeah, it went a bit all over the place, but I hope you got my point.
Actually, another problem with UBI actually is hierarchization of labor. For example, we have a lot of substantial worker, and actually who made incredible work to support the whole living of people, but at the same time incredibly underpaid. And actually always that, you know, that argument that who will make this work when everyone will get enough, because it's really hard and dirty things. Yeah, robots, not sure, actually looks like that a lot of that substantial work will be keeping afloat. because it can be done only by humans. So because it's care work and so on, and it's relational work, affective work, and at the same time it's incredibly heavy and underpaid. And actually that should bring kind of a new values. So we should really think about the division of labor, and especially artists feel kind of inside of that precarity, kind of highest class of precarity, you know, because of the class division and regions and so on. So it's a lot of very challenging and pressing issues which I don't know right now the answer. And yeah, the only way that people community rotates, so like, you know, today in the morning you work as a nurse, after lunch you work as an artist, and after dinner you make critique, and then you reach that certain kind of harmonious community who shares certain kind of works which might
It
not
was a
meet,
famous
especially
say by Kolontai or Krupskaya that,
which one?
like, in the morning you're doing a hard.
Yeah, it's Marx, but at the same time it's really weird because it's especially special division between hunting, fishing. Actually, I got this quote. It's pretty weird. Yeah, and so
From the German ideology,
yes,
fishing, hunting, and
yeah.
also like looking for the animals like shepherd.
Rearing cow. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So all the day he's doing something about the animals.
Yeah, that's right.
And then criticizing in
And
this.
then criticize, yeah. And also it's critique of professionalization, because actually Marx said in this particular shifting that the responsibilities and labor, you are not professional critique, neither hunter nor fisherman. So you are something else. You reach that harmonious unity of different skills and so on.
But in my opinion, I thought a lot about this question in my life, but I think that art as a specific, I think art has a specific role because I think it's very related to perception, vision, and imagination also. This alterity, I don't know, no? This power to take a step backward in a way, no? And have the possibility to perceive something else. And this is on one side very, very political, no? Because it's a mixture of perception, critical thinking, and so on. Is in a way also what we are doing now, speaking about something that is not what we are living. No, now in terms of material habits, I don't know. But on the other side, I think that especially in the art market and system, this power to produce alterity is very easily commodified. No, I mean, we wrote a lot of times that contemporary art needs these contents, but it's very difficult to change their infrastructure according to this content. And this is the same with the society in itself. We can provide maybe an alternative perception, but it's very difficult politically to change the infrastructure and in which we live according to these perceptions. And so the problem also of what we are talking about when speaking about gift, I think that the real issue is that this is related to a social architecture, or anyway is not so only an informal attitude, but we have a problem to translate in a sort of tension this alternative perspective into a, maybe not freezed, but anyway in a organizational mode or scheme. I don't know. Even if it's not the right one, or freezed like in communism, no. But we have to keep this tension in order to test this gift or more generosity in organization, in institution. That's why also, for example, what Nicolai is doing in Salento is in a way a gift of an alternative perception, because maybe the farmer has not the skills that Cittadella can inject in that process, no? But anyway is in function of an alternative organization, really material of a social changement, a social transition, no? And maybe for art is more easy to do it in a common-based community than in an institution like Venice Biennale or Documenta, because I was invited by Documenta in order to understand how to share the economy of Documenta by Paul in a different way. And when we started to speak to create a common wallet based on the added value of Documenta as a symbolic value in contemporary art, they refused, no? So, and to share within the artist as a self-managed support for to free the art community and so on. They refused. Maybe it's more easy to do it in Macau or in Salento or whatever. But anyway, the problem is that we could provide a different perception in order to feed and to foster a social transition. But the problem is that it's not so easy. Because they don't want.
Yeah, you're right. I remember this story.
Isn't that also the whole like fact that it has become so institutionalized somehow to like use quantifiable or economical terms for everything? So even now that like a lot of funding for art institutions depend on their educational programs or social programs, still they tend to value it in economical terms or in terms of how many people they got in. And I think that's what last week I kind of tried to say, but like couldn't really find the right words.
No, you're
but
right.
I think that's
Fight is also negotiation. So even if it's a negotiation, let's say that is a transition, is a tension, but most of the time they refuse the negotiation.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, guys, actually we have certain ecology of Zoom, so we don't make it more than 2 hours. Sorry. Maybe someone else would like to say. I see here Katie, because I know that you might have something special to share with us, if you feel like, of course. If not, yeah, don't worry. So. Okay, then I feel like maybe closing this session. I will definitely return and keep returning to that kind of crucial issue which right now at stake, and actually influence our life, our profession, our visions and everything. And yeah, thanks for joining us. Thanks, Oxana, for your contribution, provoking a lot of thoughts. And thanks everyone for being with us during this beautiful cold evening in Petersburg, yeah, or wherever. So, and I stop recording, and yeah, and hope to see you. Next session will be on education. So education in limbo. It will be discussion between VHV collective and что делать about the self-organized school, and especially how we are able or imagine to keep teaching art when everything falling apart and we still maintain our school during pandemic and isolation. And I think these experiences from two locations, from Zagreb and St. Petersburg, could be really very interesting because we have quite different approach and economy, and it could be really, really interesting. So, okay, Kitty can join us, but she sent us. Thank you so much. And yeah,
Thank
ciao,
you.
ciao.
Bye bye.
Bye, bye, bye.